queasier. I appreciate all the time you spend disseminating information and correcting misapprehensions/untruths. I've been watching your videos for a few weeks now and still can't figure out how staff members support themselves. You've said they all have other paid jobs, but how do they work around the emergency demands at their Scientology posts that may require 12 hours, days, or more? Their paid jobs must be at nights and on the weekends. Are they usually part-time shift work? Those typically don't pay well or provide benefits. And what about when you personally were traveling on behalf of Scientology? That's days at a time when you aren't earning. I just cannot fathom how it works financially. I imagine roommates and shared housing are involved, but rents are very high in Santa Barbara, LA, Pasadena, etc. Okay, so first thing, let's clarify, for newcomers here and people who haven't watched a lot of my videos yet and don't quite understand that there are different levels of Scientology, I'm just going to really quickly lay this out, that there is public, right? People with paying jobs, lives, kids, houses, etc. They just pay for their services and they do their Scientology. Then there is, above that, there is the level of staff. Scientology staff members at, say, Miami or Denver or Milano or, you know, Dusseldorf or something. What I call local city churches, or what Scientology calls Class 5 orgs. They receive not a lot of money, depends on how much income is being made that week, but their pay can fluctuate from nothing to a couple $100. All depends on how much income they had that week and bonuses and that sort of thing. They get big bonuses for when they get big donations to the International Association of Scientologists. That's what really pays a lot of bonuses in Scientology, is when you're just making straight money and flowing it up the line. Otherwise, they're really not making very much, and so they have to have other jobs, or they have to have a spouse who supports them. Then you have, above that, you have the C organization, and that is the full-time, 24/7, flat out. They're not doing anything but Scientology. Their room and board is paid for, their travel's paid for. Medical is generally actually covered by the state because they claim poverty when they go into the hospital, and they usually end up on some government subsidized programs. But generally speaking, the cost of living for them is paid for by the Sea Org, and they receive a flat rate of $50 a week. And with taxes and stuff taken out, because they pay some Social Security and stuff, that comes out to about $45 a week. They're never going to make more than that unless they're making bonuses, which happen twice a year at Christmas and on Sea Org Day in August. Otherwise, they're making, you know, at most $50 a week. Often that will be half pay, three-quarter pay, quarter pay, depending on, you know, various circumstances, no pay. But Sea Org members are not making more than $50 a week. So those are the three levels. So I want to clarify that because I worked for the Santa Barbara Church of Scientology, which was a city Class 5 org, and I made varying amounts of money when I worked there, and I worked there 40, 50 hours a week. I did that for, 8 years. Then I joined the Sea organization, and I went when I was 25 years old, and I moved down to Los Angeles, and I did that for another 17 years. Then I was on that pay system, and I was, you know, living the life of a Sea Org member. So like, for example, when I traveled, the hotels that I stayed at were paid for by the Sea Org. The food I ate when I was off base, out traveling, was paid for by the Sea Org. So, and we were given, by the way, $20 a day to eat. So we got pretty clever on how to spend that money so that we were eating. We often did trips to the grocery store and things like that. Okay, so as far as the Class 5 staff go, which I think is what most of your questions are directed to, the whole time that I worked in Santa Barbara, or most of the time that I worked in Santa Barbara, I had another job. I had two full-time jobs. I had the job that I did at the church, and then I had another full-time job. So it could depend on what your schedule is at the church. Churches have two schedules. They have a day schedule, which is Monday through Friday, 9 to 6. And they have a foundation schedule, which is Monday through Friday from 7 to 10, and Saturday and Sunday from 9 to 6. So you're on one of those two schedules, day or foundation. And if you're on a day schedule, then you're going to have to get part-time work nights and weekends. If you're on a foundation schedule, then that means you generally have a full-time day job. And that gives bennies and that sort of thing. I did both. And I alternated over the years and stuff. I was very dedicated. I wanted to be at the church more than I was doing other things, but at the same time I had to pay rent, I had to buy food, I had to get around. So I often had day jobs and I was working nights and weekends for Scientology. Most of the time, from my experience, people who work in the day, work the day shift for the church, are often doing so because they have spouses, right, who have day jobs, who are supporting them, right? Because it's pretty much volunteer work. So, but there was a period of time where I was working for the church during the day. I switched, I went back and forth. Santa Barbara was a full-time org. They were full-time. So you could be there anytime. You could be their day, you could be their foundation. But most people were their foundation because they had day jobs. So that's kind of how it breaks down. I mean, I could talk about this and just go on and on and on, but I think you get the idea of how these different structures, these different levels of commitment to the church work. And the Sea Org life is not, you know, a great life. I mean, you're always just barely making it, barely getting by. You know, when you're getting $45 a week, that's buying your underwear, that's buying your shampoo, that's buying snacks that you want, right? If you can get over to the grocery store on Sunday morning when there's time to do your wash and time to clean your room, that's when people would do a little bit of shopping. You know, for women, that's when they were getting their, you know, any sort of deodorant, pantyhose, that kind of stuff, right? All the women's stuff. That's the money you have to get that stuff, right? All the personal things that you need, socks, right? But the more big, broad things are being paid for by the Sea Org. And of course, that means that whatever food they're serving you from the galley, that's the food you get, right? Which is why you go buy some snacks, right? Because some of that food was, you know, was not so great. Other times it was, you know, it was all right. So it would always be, okay, what's today gonna bring, you know? Boy, if you're in the Sea Org, you better like eggs because you're going to be eating a whole lot of eggs for breakfast. You know, that sort of thing. Anyway, I think that gives a general answer to the question, so I'll just stop there.